Welcome back to Mega Music Memories, the podcast that remembers and celebrates the unsung heroes of our youth who earned permanent places in our hearts with their amazing music. My name is Matt Gibson. Join me as I interview pop stars from the 90s and noughties who, in my view, don't always get the plaudits they deserve for the magnificent music they made and the magical memories they left us with. So, if you're a nostalgia nerd like me, subscribe and stay tuned as we continue our journey looking back at an amazing era of pop music. If you love pop, if you love nostalgia, and if you want to hear your favourite blasts from the past, reflecting on their careers and giving us the lowdown on what they're up to now, then you're in the right place. So buckle up, guys, because we've got some serious reminiscing to do. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mega Music Memories. As ever, if you've been enjoying the interviews I've been bringing to you, please leave us a positive review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's the only thing I'll ever ask you to do to support the pod. You don't have to sit through any adverts, and I won't be asking you to sign up to Patreon or anything like that. But if you are able to leave a review and give us a positive rating, it does make a big difference and helps the podcast get noticed by more people, which will help it to grow and enable me to keep bringing you top quality guests that we all have such fond memories of. And that brings me very nicely onto our guest on this episode, Marty Cintron, the founder and lead singer of No Mercy, who, along with twin brothers Ariel and Humberto Hernandez, took the music world by storm in 1996 as their most famous track, Where Do You Go, sold millions of copies worldwide, and at the time of recording has more than 57 million views on YouTube. No Mercy released a variety of other tracks that performed successfully across Europe and the US, including Please Don't Go, When I Die, Kiss You All Over, Hello, How Are You, and their first single, Missing, which was a cover of Todd Terry's remix of the smash hit single by Everything But a Girl. And the trio's debut album, My Promise, was certified platinum in Germany, Australia, Austria and Switzerland. I really enjoyed chatting to Marty, who was really easy to talk to and get along with, and I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to the interview too. As you'll hear, he has some really incredible stories to tell and gives us a few insights about some things that I don't think have been talked about very much elsewhere before. Now, I will flag up that right towards the very end of the interview there is a tiny bit of audio interference. I do most of my interviews over Zoom, and occasionally some technical challenges do present themselves, but I've played around with the audio in the edit, and you can hear everything we're saying, so hopefully you won't find it too distracting. So, Marty still tours the world to this day, bringing No Mercy's distinctive sound that blends house, pop, soul, R&B and Latin rhythms with the Mediterranean beauty of the Spanish guitar to adoring fans across the globe. But of course, Marty's touring schedule was blown out of the water by the global COVID-19 pandemic. So when he joined me on the line from his home in Miami Beach, Florida, at the end of last month, I started by asking him, with travel and public health restrictions gradually being loosened now around the world, I started by asking him what he's been up to.
I did a show in Dubai. I had a show in the Dubai Opera House last week, and went actually really well. Did all the No Mercy songs unplugged on the acoustic guitar. So, and then just the week before that, I was in Budapest. So, those are the only two shows I've done so far in the last 2 years almost. Because of this whole COVID situation. So it was just like, it was so nice to be back on stage again. It's unbelievable.
That's great. So the Dubai gig was with Jenny Berggren from Ace of Base, wasn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And it was very, very interesting, because the audience was, everyone was wearing masks and they couldn't get out of their seats. And I met the Ace of Base. I had actually never met the Ace of Base crew before. They're very nice. We all went out to dinner together. And it was just me on stage. I mean, I'm still great friends with the guys, from the original guys from No Mercy, the twins, they're still twins, believe it or not. And but they're not participating really with me on stage anymore, because they don't want to be dancing around at our age. It's a kind of play the guitar and sing, but as far as trying to dance around like the Backstreet Boys, that ain't gonna happen.
Have the twins moved into like property development now or something like that?
Yes, yeah, we all do that. We all do like renovations. We buy and sell, and then we do like renovations. We do some stuff together as well. And it's something that we kind of fell into just by chance when we were back in the day. Miami was just really starting to get built up, and so with the money that we were making, we were just investing in real estate, and then a lot of this properties needed proper renovation because they're very old. You know what I mean? So, they knew we would flip them and sell them and stuff like that. But yeah, we talk like pretty much every day. It's funny because in fact they're coming down this weekend because it's we're gonna hang out because it's my birthday tomorrow, September 24th. So.
Amazing! Happy birthday! Is that? Yeah, that's the big 5-0, isn't it? For you?
Yeah, getting up there, man. Getting up there. So, so we're Saturday night, I have a show with the guys from NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. We have a 90s party at Live, Fontainebleau, and Live, and my manager, an old manager friend of mine, he got me on the bill, just to go and do a couple of songs. And so in this club, I don't know if you ever heard of Live, Liv. It's a big, huge club here in Miami. Well, one of the nicest, clubs in the United States anyway. So, and they're doing a big 90s party. The Backstreet Boys. It's not all of them. It's just Joey Fatone. It's Chris. And then AJ from Backstreet Boys. I think it's just those three guys, and then me. I'm just gonna do a couple of No Mercy songs, and that's it. And I really don't know what to expect, but it's supposedly they have a live band. Well, I'll know Saturday they're gonna have a sound check at 6:00, so I'll know more about what's happening. So. Yeah, this 90s things are starting to get like these revivals of people want to hear 90s music, so for whatever reason.
I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
I would love to be there. A few of the Backstreet Boys, a few of NSYNC, and yourself from No Mercy. That's amazing.
We know those guys so well because they were signed to the same label at the time, especially NSYNC. They were starting out really just when we were, in the charts already. So those guys from NSYNC, they were like coming up and, we want your autograph and everything, because Where Do You Go was like already a hit. And here it is, Justin and these guys coming up to us, we're signing autographs for them. And lo and behold, no one knew how big they would become, and they just got huge, So, and so did the Backstreet Boys. So it was just a crazy time. But now those guys are, everyone's older, and they're also doing shows all over the place. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, what do you think it is about that era and that music that people love so much that gets us to
The
pay
song,
to hear those tracks again and see artists like yourself performing?
right. And I've been asked that before, and to be honest, it's the songwriting was just so nice, and it was good. It was songs about love, and uh, just positive stuff. There wasn't like any of this crazy hip hop that we got now, and all this ghetto, hip hop, which some of it's pretty cool, but a lot of it is just not so cool. So, and it's just it's just very disrespectful, whatever. And the songs are just not like they were. I don't know. Like I do these festivals. Like I was in Budapest, like about a month ago, and people just they go nuts still for these types of songs, and that are still being played on the radio. But I guess it just brings back their youth, maybe the good times, like they can remember what they were doing during those times. But that's a good question. I mean, I because I personally loved like the music of the 80s and the 70s. Was like the songs were just so amazing, especially the 70s, and of course the 80s. But now the 90s was so different. Those three different decades is so different, And now, but people now we're just getting. I'm getting all kinds of requests, and I do go out as as No Mercy because I own I put the group together. I own the name.
Yeah.
So
you were the founder, basically, weren't you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. With along with Frank Farian, and
yes.
just like the Weekend, he uses the Weekend on I'm No Mercy, so it's kind of like that, So
we'll obviously talk a lot about No Mercy, but just firstly, can you briefly tell us a bit about your career before that? Because for years you worked really hard, sort of gigging, playing the guitar, singing and dancing across America and internationally as well, didn't you?
Yes, well, unbelievably, I used to host just before No Mercy started, which was in '95 of September. Before that, I was the host for the Chippendales. Have you ever heard of the Chippendales?
Oh yes, yeah, we know the Chippendales, yeah.
I know you do know the Chippendales because we went over to England and we had a show in the West End down there at the Strand. Do you remember the Strand? The Strand
yes, it's down in London, yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's in London in the West End, and we had an actual show that ran for a number of months. And I was the host, I was the singer, the guitar player. It was very cabaret-ish. You had your guys like me who were the host, then you had your professional dancers, then you had your, strippers, the guys that, 6'5", super tall, blonde hair, couldn't dance at all, but they looked great. And they could, they would, basically strip cabaret style striptease for the women. The women would go crazy. So then then I got on the actual tour that toured all over England. I mean, we went to Manchester, Newcastle, Stoke-on-Trent. I mean, you name a place. We did shows in all over England. So this is prior to my going into forming the whole No Mercy project about a year, 2 years prior. So.
Well, that's amazing because that was the absolute peak of the Chippendales as well, wasn't it?
Yes,
in that era.
It absolutely was. And what happened was the owner of Chippendales, which is all documented, you could find it you could find it online, the story. His name was Stephen Banerjee. He was an Indian, okay? He lived in Los Angeles. And he was the one who actually had hired me. I had the audition in Las Vegas. And that's how I met, a lot of my friends that I know today. We're still in really good contact. But the audition for Chippendales for the European tour, which was like 92-ish, 93, 91. I'm not sure if it was like maybe the end of 91, definitely 92, 93. So we toured all over England, like everywhere. And it was like the first time they came over. And then what happened was, he started getting, we wanted to form our own group because he didn't want to pay what we felt was, we had deserved, and he was making all the money. So a lot of us left, and we formed another group called Adonis.
Right.
Now, do you remember Adonis? Do you remember
I
that?
don't, to be honest, Marty. It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. All right. Well, so a bunch of us left Adonis, all the top talent from there, because he wasn't being fair with salaries and everything like that. And we were in literally in a bus going all over the place. And I didn't realize how big England is if you're going to be driving all over England. It is. Yeah. Oh my God. That's a big country,
It's bigger than you think, isn't it? It's bigger than you think.
Oh my God, it's incredibly big. You drive, we would go like to Wales from London. I mean, 8-hour, 10-hour, these crazy long drives, like, and it's like, oh man, how can we still be in England? We'd be like freaking out. But anyway, we left to form another group, and to make a long story short, Steve Banerjee didn't like that, so he put a contract out to kill 3 members of the group of Adonis. He ended up actually getting caught. He ended up going to prison for 25 years, and then he hung himself in his jail cell. So that was the time when it was like, okay, it's time for me to get out of this business. And
that's unbelievable. I did not know that.
Yeah. You can actually find that story online. It's a story about the Chippendales and Stephen Banerjee, what had happened. So, from there, I actually went to Japan, and I was working for another company called J-Men, which was kind of the same concept. It was like a cabaret style. I was the host. Hey, ladies, how you doing? Yeah. You ready for a great time tonight? We got some, and I would bring out the guys, and then I would sing, play guitar, blah blah blah, all that stuff, and then bring the guys out. So I actually ended up having an accident because I was doing a flip in the air, when we do our dance combination when we first come out to open the show. Yeah. So this was in 93 or no, I think 94. This would have happened in March of 94. So I ended up lying in my head, landing on my head, and I basically went into a coma for like 7 days after I finished the show. So I had to fly back to New York, and I ended up leaving Japan, and then I came to Miami to start like recuperating and everything like that. And I got a job singing and playing guitar on Ocean Drive at this like little hotel on 9th Street in Ocean Drive. And that's when Frank Farian happened to be staying at a place called the Casa Grande, which is right directly next door. And he was walking out. He heard me singing and playing. And that's how No Mercy was formed, basically, in a nutshell,
Yeah. So just for our listeners who might not know, can you tell us who Frank Farian is and kind of some of the acts that he'd worked with previously?
Right. Yeah. So Frank, at the time, I did not know personally who he was. I had never heard him or recognized him at all. But at the time, he was working on a group called La Bouche, which was very, very big at the time. And then he was telling me that he was the producer of Milli Vanilli. And I'm like, really? I wasn't sure if I believed him or not. It was like one of those. And then he was telling me about Boney M, which Boney M, I don't know if you know Boney M.
Oh yeah, we know Boney M. Yeah.
Okay, because Boney M was it was like kind of like the ABBA was what ABBA was to the United States, because Boney M was not popular in the United States at all. Right. But it was absolutely huge all over Europe, Russia. It was just a big deal. So, Frank was a very, very successful producer, and he really liked the way I sung and played guitar. And then he had asked, listen, I'm interested in forming a group. I would love to work with you. And he asked me if I knew 2 other guys, and I just happened to know the twins because they were dancing for Prince at the time. Prince, formerly artist known as Prince, whatever you want to call him. Yeah. He had a club here in Miami Beach called Glam Slam. So they were working there, and and I knew I had known them, because I actually was going to bring them into Adonis as performers, Right. So it ended up, he ended up flying us to Europe. and I ended up September of '95. Ended up recording our first single, which was missing from Everything But the Girl, which Frank had heard. That song happened to be like a B-side, and it wasn't. And Todd Terry had got a hold of it and was playing it in Ibiza. Frank was in Ibiza, and then he's like, "Ooh, this song is great. I'd like to do a male version of this song." So he had that vision to just do another, like the male counter, part of the answer to that, song, which was Everything But the Girl, which was by Todd Terry.
Yeah.
And that's that song. Because of that song is how we got into the charts and how we got signed to it was called at the time BMG Hansa, which was in Germany, because we actually got signed to a German record label, and then from Germany it spread all over the world.
Yeah, and you guys made there's two different music videos for Missing, isn't there? Your version.
Yes.
Do you know why that was?
Oh, I know exactly why. Because the first video that we did was done in Austria, and it was directed by a company called Zorro. They've done the Rolling Stones, they've done like all Michael Jackson, they've done many successful artists. It's an Austrian company. Hannes Rosacker was the director, and so we actually did that first video in a studio. And the studio version, it was a beautiful video, whatever. But they thought that the twins, not me, but the twins, that they came across a little bit. It was a little bit gayish, the costuming and whatever like that. And
Right.
They didn't want that. They didn't want that image,
Right.
So they thought, wait, let's go to Miami. Let's do another video. We don't want all this stylized kind of thing. We want something more street Miami. And that's when we went to Miami, and we actually shot the video that from Ocean Drive and all that other stuff. And from that missing loop, which basically the song "Where Do You Go" was also born, because it's the same style, even though it's in a minor key. In the minor key, it's more sad. Missing "Where Do You Go" with the same loop was in a major key, which it's major. The chorus is minor. The verses. So the formula is pretty much the same, And then "Where Do You Go," the rest is history from there, But so those two songs, and then after that, "When I Die," the ballad came out. We shot that in Venice, Italy, and then "Please Don't Go." I think actually "Please Don't Go" was before "When I Die," and that was like another style of like the "Where Do You Go." I argue with them. Why did that? "Please Don't Go" was a song that I actually wrote, but I didn't want to title it that. I didn't want to title it that because of the go, whatever. They're like, no, we got to call it. I'm like, really? I'm like, come on, we just had "Where Do You Go," and now we're gonna come out with "Please Don't Go." But the record label,
there's another 90s track around that time as well called "Please Don't Go" by a band called KWS as well. Which,
right, but it was nothing like ours. It was completely different. It was just the title, and then obviously you had "Please Don't Go" from Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Yeah.
So it was just
What would you have called it?
Anything but "Please Don't Go." Anything else, at the time, I was just like, I don't, it was, I wrote the lyrics, I wrote the melody, I wrote it, I really, because they were so adamant about it, I didn't even really come up with a title for it, but I would have just put, anything but that, you know what I mean? We just says, all right, let's just do it. I didn't want to cause a rift or anything like that. So it was like something that I didn't think was that important, but it was like weird, so, but regardless, so those songs, started out during that time period with Frank Farian, and it just launched. It just went so fast, to become successful. And then obviously recorded everything in Spanish as well, so it blew up in South America, Brazil. All the songs we got, a lot of our songs in the novellas and a lot of these South American novellas that were broadcasted on TV. They would use our music. So it was a great time. It was a really, really fun time, man. And it's just, I can't even believe it's 25 years already. It's just insane.
Man, time flies, doesn't it? It really
Oh,
does.
yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Now, Where Do You Go was actually originally an album track, wasn't it, by LaBouche?
Correct, but it was just a hook. It was never any verses developed or anything like that. But Frank had always had the vision for a male to sing that song.
Yeah.
So he wanted to. So it was just the LaBouche, who was Melanie Thornton, sung "May She Rest in Peace" because she died in a plane crash in November of 2001. Which most people don't know because of the whole 9/11 thing at the time, which was happening. Yeah. It was a Swiss Air jet. They were, on approach to the runway, whatever, and they misshot the runway in bad weather, and yeah, it's just horrible. She's a very close friend of mine because the only two company groups in the production company were No Mercy and LaBouche. It was just us. So we worked in the studio with them all the time. So they we're always, together working, and Melanie and Lane McRae had their project going. But Frank was, after he met me, he really wanted to focus in on doing this project, which we did. And then, there was obviously the guitar mixed with the European stuff. And, LaBouche, one of the songs was that he had the vision for to do it like a kind of a missing song was "Where Do You Go?" And then so we developed the verses and that whole production around the hook. But we had the hook first, before any of the verses were developed. So and any of the guitar stuff or anything like that. So totally changed it into a completely different song. Because if you hear Melanie's version on there,
it's completely different, isn't it?
But it's still cool. It's still cool. Yeah. But it's a completely different vibe, completely different thing. So.
So I mean, No Mercy did a few cover versions, but as you say, they were really good covers because in the sense that you guys really did make these tracks your own by kind of with a really distinctive Latin kind of Mediterranean vibe. I mean, as a musician, as an artist, is that something that excited you, being able to do that?
I did. I did. And Frank had these visions to do a lot of them, and so did I. Like, it was my idea for the Kiss You All Over track, which was a 70s song from Exile. A group which was kind of like a country band. So if you hear our version and you hear their version, it's totally different, And Frank, I mean, he did a cover version of "Stairway to Heaven," for crying out loud. I was like, some song like I would never even think to touch that, but Frank did, Yeah. And we did like "Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood."
Yeah.
We did a Led Zeppelin cover. We did Dire Maker, which was actually pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, I like to be able to, at the time, you do covers, but you do them your own way, because obviously it makes no sense to try to duplicate it exactly the way it was done.
Of course.
And at the time, Frank likes that because he and the record company there know that they are already proven songs that had an audience. So because the songs were really good, and they thought that they could capture it with another demographic in the audience, which I was cool with it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, I was just happy to be in the studio recording. I would have sang it, and I was writing as well. We were writing, but how it is, when the record company is paying, they want to pay for their songs or their songwriters or their catalog, and they want their ideas, which is understandable. So we just we got along pretty good with everything in the studio, and yeah, that's why we were working on a lot of covers and doing it with the Spanish guitar, and at least we had that formula, which European music, and you hear those songs on the radio and they still sound fresh even today.
You do, yeah, definitely. And when you were recording "Where Do You Go," obviously it became so massive. Did you have any idea about how much of a mega hit it was going to be, or was it a surprise?
No, I absolutely did not. I could have never have predicted that that song would be, but I've never saw anyone work so hard on a song like Frank producing it. We had so many edits. Like we had like the song originally started out at like 15 minutes long with
Right.
all these different parts. It was like,
Yeah.
let it go, my love, and and
Yeah.
then la da 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 da, 8 bars of that, and then and then other parts that weren't even well, you might have heard a lot of the other parts because they were in so many other different versions. There were so many different mixes of that song. And longer ones that were 6, 7, 8 minutes long. So, but chopped down into 3 or 4 minutes, you had this whole slew of different melodies and different things. And I would have never thought it was going to work. To be honest, I didn't think, because it was kind of like chopped up so much from a long version, and then kind of crafted into this radio version of 4 minutes 20 seconds. But then it just grew on you so much. It's like it's so infectious. The hook with the whole style of it. It sounded like nothing else on the radio.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what really makes music very successful. It's like when it has an original sound, and a real original singer. Like I mean, I at the time, no one really sounded like me. I guess I'm not that I'm the best singer, because I'm definitely not. But if you hear the No Mercy sound, it's No Mercy.
Yeah.
You could recognize that. That the signature sound, which is with the vocals, the harmonies, and the guitar, and that kind of that style production. So yeah, I would have never thought in a million years that that song would have been a hit, especially at the time, because the music was pretty. It was different on the radio, but we were trying to just do happy dance, radio friendly, positive stuff. So and we did a ton of TV promotion all over Germany, starting out, and TV shows and everything like that. So I think that helped out as much to get the music out. Um, as with anything, promotion is super important.
Yeah, and as you say, you did a lot of it, didn't you? I mean, what was that
Yeah.
like?
Well, it was kind of a little bit frustrating, because we
Yeah.
really had wanted to do a proper tour, which we had never really did. It was always promotion here. We got to go there. We got to do this morning show. We got to go to this radio station. And so we kind of missed out on like doing that big world tour.
Mm.
'Cause we were always just, doing promotion. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous. And we did like promotion for South America, Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, all the European countries. It was grueling, to be honest.
Mm.
When I think back on it, because when you have a band like that, you want to do a proper tour. Not, what I mean. It was so, and they were like, "Oh no, we got to, still build it up, build it up." But at the time, it was already built up. So we were like, "What are you talking about?" But we went along with it, and we did what we did. So
Well, it's great that you're getting to do a bit of touring now. Even it's obviously different, but you get to have some of that experience now, to sort of traveling around the world, because obviously there's still that huge interest and
oh yeah,
appetite.
well, before COVID, I was doing, at least I don't know, 40, 50 shows a year. With different, either private corporate events,
Yeah.
or what do you call it? Festivals. You know what I'm saying? Like a
Yes.
lot of festivals that are not just with No Mercy, but with other groups from that time period. So, and they've been so successful. I mean, like 5 to 10,000, 15,000 seat uh, venues, totally sold out. So, until this whole COVID thing hit, it was actually starting to get it, even bigger, like with more of these types of festivals around popping up in all these different territories, in all the different countries, and even in Russia. Russia, the songs were huge there. It was
Yeah.
surprising. So yeah, it's pretty amazing how music can touch people from all over the world in so many different languages, and and it's really amazing.
Absolutely, and thank goodness it can and does. Because Where Do You Go was so huge. Is there any part of you that kind of, as a musician, that gets frustrated by people like myself constantly asking you about it? Because obviously it's far from the only thing that you've done in your career. There's been lots before and since that track. Did you ever get sick of it?
At little times, I just don't want to be known as the Where Do You Go guy, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. I mean, when people who know that song and they recognize that we were not just a one hit wonder. We had amazing other songs like When I Die and Please Don't Go and all the other stuff that we Hello, How Are You from the second album. All these tracks, they still play them on radio stations all over the world. Maybe not on the newest radio stations, but on the retro stations, they still all play, and that's okay with me.
Absolutely.
And the ballads, we had some beautiful ballads. My Promise to You. We had Two or More. When I Die, which those songs sound completely different than you would have never even thought it was the same band.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So, this song Where Do You Go it really is kind of freakish how big it was. It's just like wow, and but I have no problem with it. I really. I'm like, I'm that guy, and it's just amazing to see the people's reaction still after 25 years. Like, oh my God, you sang that song, and they can tell me a story about where they were, what they were doing, and I was with my friends and whatever, and they get so excited talking about it because it brings them back to a certain time period in their life that they were happy. They were actually happy. I mean, people were actually having fun during those days. Not there. There was no Donald Trump. I mean, there was none of that. There was no. I mean, of course, he was in New York. He was doing.
He wasn't causing quite as much trouble, though, was he?
No. He was still, but he was still a character in those times. Oh my God. Oh yes, for sure. But now it just seems like wow. It's just people want to go back to having a good time, to remember the good old days, I guess, and I'm very happy to go out and feel lucky that I'm able to go out and do these shows and still, because the music industry is such a difficult industry, so to still be after all these years making shows and getting pay for it actually as well to travel. I just was in Budapest and Dubai, and I go to Russia and Germany and Romania. I mean, I'm still all over the place. I've been the last years. So it's been a really fun experience, and I meet amazing people along the way. I've met incredible people. I've made a lot of really great friends that I've kept in touch with over the years. And so I look forward to doing it actually more and more.
Amazing. And looking back at that sort of time in the 90s when you were at your biggest, No Mercy were part of an explosion of Latin American, Spanish influenced music that was really taking hold in popular culture at the time, wasn't it?
Yes, because you had your Ricky Martins, your Julio Iglesias, Enrique Iglesias, I meant, and they were kind of, it was kind of that whole thing. Jennifer Lopez was starting to the Latin stuff, and Shakira was just kind of getting started. So it was a real interesting time, and like a lot of Spanish music started becoming well known in the European areas, which was pretty amazing. I mean, we have, and even now you have like the reggaeton and stuff. You have the like Maluma and Daddy Yankee and all these they're people know who they are, whereas and they're Puerto Rican or whatever, they back then they did not know who those that style of artist, or actually the music was different back then, but you know what I mean. It was just we were at the forefront of starting that whole Miami sound kind of thing, European mix, So it was very interesting.
Yeah, you're pioneers, really. And did Emilio Estefan want to manage No Mercy at one point?
He did, but we just weren't interested. We just had heard so many nightmare stories, and pretty much they were true. I mean, Shakira, she fired him. I know he had problems with John Cicada. I don't know if they're even still working together. He doesn't, really have from the artists that I know, because I was really one of the guys who work in the studio, the actual workers who were there, were editing, were the recording and playing guitar, and yeah, he just didn't have the right, the reputation that he just wanted to take too much of everything, So we just kind of like we stayed away from Emilio, to be honest,
Yeah.
and whether that was a mistake or not, I don't know. I don't know what he could have done. Could have maybe done more, but we don't know. But we just didn't. We didn't want to kind of go that route. We just stuck with the European agencies, and we went did what we did.
Yeah. Now, you were obviously a product of the 1990s. We're now in 2021, and the industry and the world, frankly, has changed massively.
Huge.
Are you grateful that No Mercy were at their biggest in the 90s, or would you have liked back then to have the opportunities that artists of today have with social media and the various technological advances that have been made?
Oh, well, of course. I mean, but even like with now, like now, like I'm like terrible with the whole Instagram and the Facebook stuff. I'm trying to get into that, but I just like playing my guitar so much. I'm still old fashioned and getting in there and talking to everybody on social media. I'm just not good at it. It's overwhelming. I don't know how like a lot of these people manage themselves with all their Instagram accounts and doing everything, and they have millions of followers, and but it's a time that is very special right now, because you actually can get your fans from that you weren't able to meet back then. You have another platform that they remember you by. So if I get now, I'm starting to get more into it, and I want to hire, maybe get a company to kind of just really kind of blow it up and everything, because I get a lot of music. Oh my God, Marty, we love your music. We still listen to you. And I get all these great stories. So I've been meeting amazing people on it, and I'm like, wow, this is actually a great platform after all. I mean, you get your trolls, of course, on there once in a while. Get some people who are, there's those gay guys or whatever, from the 90s, and not everyone liked us, but not that many. We have actually have a lot of positive responses, which is a good thing. But it's incredible how different the platform is now, as opposed to then. Having a record, I mean, the value of music has kind of like went down in a way. I mean, you used to have that physical album. Now you could write a song and get it out to somebody in 10 minutes, all over the world. And everyone has an iPhone or, a good pair of headphones. And so you literally have a bigger opportunity to get your music to the world and to your fans than you did back then. Back then, you needed a 8-track or a CD or cassette player, or you didn't have that possibility to get quality music, delivered to your devices, because there were no devices. I mean, we had these big, huge telephones. Remember those things? I mean, it was like. It was just a weird, it was just like a completely different thing. Just like how the camera, we used to have all these stores around with, you have to develop your film, to drop it off in the the pharmacy, or in the, to get it. And then 2 days later, you get your film back. That changed. Everything is now in the phone, and the pictures look better than ever. And it's a special time,
Yeah. Just to go back to something you were saying earlier about Ariel and Humberto the twins worked as dancers with Prince, didn't they?
Right.
Did you have any involvement with Prince back then yourself?
I did not. I actually never met him. They were really good friends with him, but they were like kind of branching off because they didn't want to do dances. I actually took them away from that.
Yeah.
And I gave an opportunity, and they actually wrote some stuff on the album as well, and they wanted to be away from the whole dancing thing and be more into the artist thing. So and I gave them that opportunity. I shared my royalties with them equally. On the road, we shared our everything equally. Even though I was the main guy, I treated them like they were the main guys as well, and they were, because I don't know if No Mercy would have been successful without those guys. Their image, their whole thing of how we work together, especially on stage, was great. We had something that no one really did, and we weren't just like three people singing. I mean, I actually played guitar, and we did a lot of unplugged stuff too, and it was a unique concept for the time, So it just kind of fell together, and we had backing of one of the largest labels, in the world. So it was great for us because we were their bell cow, so to speak. I don't know if that's a good thing, but they kind of took advantage a little bit, but it is what it is, and I'm happy that the music is still out there, and it's a great thing,
Yeah, and in 1998, No Mercy released the second album called More,
right,
which did quite well in parts of Europe, but didn't quite emulate the first. Do you have any thoughts on why it didn't perform quite as well as the first album?
Well, I think, we just didn't have that one magical song. It all boils down to a great song. We had good songs, and they were nice songs, but that Where Do You Go track, when that thing comes on, and it's just something magical about it. The energy behind it. And we had songs like Hello, How Are You? We did another cover, More Than a Feeling. We did a video for that, and that was very nice. It's all like these guys are good, whatever.
Yeah.
But was it that big hit that we needed? That was something really so original? No, it wasn't. And I think at that time, there was enough more artists were coming out, and we're having unique sounds and sounding different. And the labels, when you don't have that next big hit, they move on to the next flavor of the month, so to speak.
They're ruthless, aren't they? They're ruthless, the labels.
It's so ruthless. So we lost the support of the label, and we, it was just like, oh, that song's not going to hit. Okay, next act, So you're really treated like just a SKU number. If you don't perform, and that product doesn't perform, they're forced by their superiors or whatever. But it's such a ruthless industry, and the cuts they take. Like even now, like all the songs, like all the YouTube, like a lot of those royalties that the record companies are still making all that money from the advertisers. They're not sharing fairly the actual payments, that the revenue, that should be going to the artist. It's just like, it's so unfair, but it is what it is. You got to kind of make the best out of it, because every artist is kind of caught in the same thing, unless you're Beyonce or a huge artist who's constantly has that machine behind them, and that investment, without that investment really behind you to keep that wheel, the wheels turning, it's hard. Back then it was harder to move on, and then you have to do your live shows. But now I think it's a little easier as far as with the social media to get to your fans. But still, you need great music still, So I built a studio. I have a studio in Miami Beach. And I'm working on stuff, and I have some really nice songs and things that I put up on the internet. But, to have that that promotion every day where, TV is still important. You have commercials on TV and, you know, uh, back then, like the amount of money they spent, was amazing. For that time, they literally spent millions of dollars in promoting the act, and of course, they made millions. Because we sold millions of singles and albums. So, yeah, and that's just the industry and how it is. But like you said, it's ruthless.
Did you release a solo album in 2001, Marty?
Yeah, I did. Some tracks. I had this song with some really nice songs on it, like Final Symphony, and I had Love Has Two Sides, and a bunch of stuff. But I think people who know the No Mercy sound, yeah, they know the music, but to get it out to like the masses and to new people was at the time was just not so easy because not having that label, at the time the label just said, okay, we're done, and they were gravitated towards other new and upcoming artists, and they were focusing their attention on them. So, but we had some really nice songs that I produced in my studio and everything like that. But we never really again had that one magical song, and I guess that doesn't only happen with No Mercy. It happens with a lot of artists, that have those a few different songs that just become so massive, and they never quite achieve that to top that hit again. It's very hard to do.
Yeah, is that music available to listen to anywhere for fans?
Yeah, it's online. It's online. I have to. It was like it's on iTunes, and on the web. It's on YouTube. It's definitely. Yeah, the fans have grabbed it and they put it up. It's for sure. The song. Yeah, the fans a lot of people that when they're diehard fans, they find the stuff that because they want to hear a lot of new stuff. So,
yeah,
but it's available. Oh yeah, it's available. It's all over the internet for sure.
Excellent. So you're just back from a big gig over in Dubai. What else have you got lined up for the rest of the year and into 2022?
Right. Wait. So the rest of the year, October 23rd, there's a big 90s festival in Dublin, Ireland. So I'll be flying out for that, and that looks like it's going to happen. With a bunch of different other acts, Snap, and Mr. President, and like a lot of these other groups, CC Music Factory. It's online. You can see it on with the bill as they're advertising it. So hopefully this is going to happen because I recently had a couple of weeks ago after Dubai, had Bulgaria canceled. They canceled the big festival, and also Bucharest canceled the big festival.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but some countries are a little bit more strict than others as far as gathering people with the coronavirus, with the COVID, and everything like that, with the masks, and it's a lot of people getting sick, and it's a very strange time right now. It's a very strange time.
Well, that gig in Ireland sounds amazing, and I'm assuming tickets are still available for that. And
I would think so. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds great, and it's great to hear that you're still in touch with the guys, and you're still performing, and you're still spreading joy wherever you go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to be fun. Actually, they're living in Tampa at the moment, but they come to Miami every so often. But they're coming down to hang out with me for my birthday and stuff. So yeah, we're friends for over 25 years now. So it's great that we're like, and they're like my best friends still till this day. So it's a cool thing because I can't say a lot for these, a lot of these other music groups that get together. They hate each other, a lot of them, without mentioning any names.
Yeah,
because you're on the road together and all this stuff. I remember seeing a documentary on the Swedish house mafia, and like by the end they hated each other, they don't even talk, so it was three guys just playing DJs, and they did all this amazing shows all over the world, but at the end of the day they weren't having fun, and they weren't, it was the strange strange thing. I mean, I guess people just, they just got sick of each other after a while. But it's quite the opposite with us. We really enjoy each other's company still, and we laugh a lot, and we talk a lot. We hang out, go out to dinner. So yeah, it's fun, and we're writing some new music. I'm working on some with a famous Bulgarian DJ. His name is Stan Kolev. There's a track that we did a few years ago called
Oh, yes.
Shed My Skin, which is really
Yes.
cool. And that's kind of like another DJ-esque, another level of new modern DJs with the No Mercy vocal sound, and so I'm actually looking to do work with more DJs. Like I would like to work with, like The Weeknd or whoever. It was not a DJ, he's more of a producer, but you know what I mean? I want to collaborate more with modern, because you could only you mix. It's like mixing food together. You mix Chinese food together with Italian. I don't know if that's such a great combination, but but it's only going to be something different. You know what I mean? So So I mean, and there's actually two of my favorite types of food, Italian and Chinese. But I don't know if together if they would go great. But hey, you never know.
You don't know if you don't try, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like with Stan, we did some stuff, and he's more of a DJ, and he's really really cool. He's very modern. It's like a deep house, and he uses like the new modern synthesizer sounds, and so we're working on some new stuff as well. And I'll get it up, and I'll send it over to you when I get it up on the internet. I'll so you can check it out.
Oh, that would be amazing. That sounds really exciting, and I'd love to hear that, and I'm sure our listeners would too. So thanks so much, Marty, for joining us. That's really great.
I really appreciate it. It was a great interview. You guys asked me. You didn't ask me what was my first kiss when I was 12 years old, and the stuff the things that the questions I would get when we were a kid for these magazines, like Pop Rocky and all this stuff. They wanted to know, that actually it's fair, because that's the stuff that kids really really want to know. But it's like some of the questions back then were like, oh my god, really? But it is what it is, But yeah, this is a great interview, and I really appreciate you reaching out. And thanks, to your platform, to all your fans that have supported No Mercy over the years, man. I thank them so much, because without them and guys like you that really enjoy reaching out to us and doing these interviews, that you guys are keeping the name in the game. You know what I mean? Keeping us alive in the public, and I really appreciate that.
Well, no worries, and long may it continue.
Yes, I hope so. So, oh, great. Well, So, thank you for the interview, and take care to all my fans out there, and people can check me out, and No Mercy Marty on Instagram. I'm still trying to build my Instagram more and reach out more to my fans on Facebook, and upload new stuff, and I have a ton of new photos and new things that I want to upload. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm going to start being a little bit more present on the social media, and because it's really important, and I just look forward to engaging with my fans in the future a little bit, not a little bit more, a lot more, and getting out the music that I've been working on with different people, different collaborations with different DJs and stuff like that, and different producers. And that's about it right now. For right now, it's still about trying to get that next great song out there, and that's what we'll continue to try to do.
So there you go, that was my interview with Marty Cintron, the lead singer of No Mercy. I had a really nice time chatting to Marty, and I want to say a big thank you to him for giving me such a pleasant interview and being just really open and honest with us about his incredible career. I thought there were some astonishing things to come out of that interview. That crazy story about the Chippendales and their former manager taking a contract out on some of the guys like Marty who broke away and formed their own group. I thought that was absolutely staggering. And I thought it was cool as well that regular listeners to the pod will know that that gig Marty had as the singer with the Chippendales back in the early 90s was more or less the same kind of gig that our very first guest and friend of the pod, Nick Major, got back in 2008 when he was the front man for the latest incarnation of the Chippendales at the time, Here Come the Boys. There were a few other things that came out of that interview with Marty that I didn't know about before. Of course, we're lucky just to have Marty with us today, really, after that accident in Japan that ended up leaving him in a coma for 7 days at the very beginning of his career. I thought it was interesting to learn why 2 different music videos were made for No Mercy's debut single, Missing. And I would love to get hold of that original uncut version of Where Do You Go that Marty said was about 15 minutes long. It's great to hear that Marty's still best friends with the twins, and I hope those guys enjoyed Marty's birthday celebrations together. It's really good that Marty's working on new music and some really exciting and interesting collaborations, potentially. You can find Marty on Instagram at No Mercy Marty, where I'm sure we'll be able to keep up to date with what he's doing and where he's doing his next shows. And if you're in Ireland, and we do have quite a few listeners in Ireland, and if there's still any tickets left, that gig that Marty's doing in Dublin on October the 23rd sounds incredible. I've checked it out online, and the lineup is mind-blowing. If you're a fan of 90s music, the bill includes the likes of Gala, Two Unlimited, Alice DJ, Robin S, Rosalla, Entrance, Wigfield, Snap, Sash, Rednecks, Mr. President, and Lena Katina from Tattoo. These are all people I'd love to have one day on the podcast. So if you're a fan and you live near Dublin, seriously, I've just checked and there are just a few tickets still left right now. I'm recording this on October the 8th, so, why not check it out, guys? So, thank you once again to Marty for just giving us a great interview, and thank you once more to you guys for listening. Please give us a 5-star rating if you're on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Leave us a positive review because it'll really help the podcast grow, and I'll be forever indebted to you if you do. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes. I'm on the verge of getting another couple of interviews in the can for you guys to enjoy that I'm really, really excited about. So subscribe, stay tuned, and we'll be back very soon with more Mega Music Memories.